Welcome to Season 3 of Sailing Sitka. I'm Kenna, and this is Jay. We live aboard our 1976 Choi Lee sailboat named Sitka, in which we have sailed south from Canada in 2022 to the very last port of Mexico. This season, we are finally exiting Mexico and taking our boat further through the Panama Canal and into the beautiful Central American waters. So hit that subscribe button and follow along, as this season we are sailing as far and wide as possible. You guys you make this happen, and we couldn't do it without you. So thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Sailing Sitka, and I hope you enjoy. All right, this is our new spot. Green Island. So a bit breezy, but extremely tenfold better than Chichime. Like, it's just a nice enough breeze to keep us cool, which is so nice. And I don't know if you guys can see or not, but the bottom is right there. So we are at 14 feet, 8 feet below our keel, and then our keel being 6 feet. It's really neat to see your keel so close to the ocean floor. We really love our new little spot here. It's also like such good spacing from all these other boats, and Chichime was like just way too close for comfort, honestly. So far here it's really nicely spaced out, and we really enjoy our spot. So we can already feel like we're gonna be here a little bit because it's so nice. And yeah, this is Sitka's new spot. It's pretty good. I like it. Everything went pretty well today though, eh?
Yeah, considering like we almost lost the engine again, but yeah, like I said, like luckily it's a sailboat. The only thing is like there are some like tight passes here in the sandblast where it is nice to have the reliable engine, but at least there's pretty consistent wind here. So we just got to be on our A game as far as sailing goes. And yeah, it went well. We motored in total maybe, I don't know, 20 minutes to get out. And then we had the sail up right away. And then was motor sailing for like another 10 minutes. And then we saw the bubbles and we're like, okay, fuck this. Turn it off. Had to bleed it just to be safe, to know that it was going to start when we needed it at the end. And then we basically sailed all the way in. We sailed all the way to like where we were 0.9 miles from the entrance of like literally the anchorage, and then we put the mizzen away, and then we sailed till we were 0.4 miles from the entrance, and then turned the engine on, saw that it was running, went down, made sure there was no bubbles. There was a little bit, but we knew that we could run it at that with that amount of bubbles because we've done it before. And then furled the Genoa, and then came in, and then lowered the RPM even more just to coast in. Yeah. And then found ourselves a spot. And then as I was coming over this spot, I wanted to like scout around. I could tell on the chart it was kind of shallow, but then I started seeing like 4 feet under the keels, and then 4 feet, 3 feet, 5 feet, 6 feet, 4 feet, 7 feet, 8 feet, and then I was like, oh, okay. And then and then we went further, and I got to like 25 feet basically, and then dropped in about 28 feet of water. And
on a shelf, right? That goes up.
Yeah, like basically we drop the anchor here, and it goes like this afterward towards like where the wind's pushing us uphill basically. So the anchor, if we were to drag, we won't, but if we were to drag, we would just get progressively more and more scope, because it gets shallower. And right now where Sitka is sitting is about between 13 and 15 feet, like about 14 feet of water. So yeah, pretty good little spot.
After a short and gentle sail through the warm turquoise waters of the Sandblast Islands, anchoring at Green Island feels like drifting into a dream. Now with the engine quiet and the sails all tucked away, a calm stillness settles over the boat as we take in our new surroundings. Just an emerald dot in a sea of blue, framed by soft white sands and a crown of swaying palms. The scent of salt and sun-kissed coconuts drift in the breeze, and the only sounds are the gentle lapping of water against the hull and the distant rustle of leaves in the wind. There's a deep, unspoken peace in these first few moments, when the anchor grabs hold and the boat becomes part of the landscape. It's a quiet kind of magic, the kind that makes your chest feel full. Excitement bubbles over both of us as we think about exploring yet another untouched shore, but that'll have to wait. First order of business now that we're anchored is diving into the engine bay, yet again.
Alright guys, so today is our second day at Green Island. Well, we arrived yesterday, so first morning, and we noticed again fuel issues and air. And at this point, it has to be the fuel pickup. I know I've said this, it has to be this before, but we're at the point where it cannot be anything else at this point. So it's two things. It's either the hose that's going, the hard line that's going in the fuel tank has some sort of holes towards the top where it's sucking air as well, which is a likely thing because it's metal and over time they do get corroded and they can break down, or it's a partial clog, which would make sense because we've seen stuff in the Raycors when we had that problem in the Panama Canal where there's like some decent chunks of like shit in there, and there might be a partial clog in that fuel intake line that's within the tank, and that's causing it to like block at high RPM and then not enough flow and then the engine dies. Or it could be a combination of those two things, holes in the pickup line as well as a partial blockage. So I have a plan, but I don't know if it's gonna work because I don't know if my hose is gonna be long enough or whatnot, but we're gonna try to attempt to bypass that fuel pickup line and install another one. So on Sitka we have this little cubby here, and of course now that I'm filming I can't open it, but so that's how we check with the dipstick how much fuel's left. So what I'm gonna attempt to do is I have this hose here, but I don't know if it's gonna be long enough, and I just marked, I used their fuel dipstick, then marked from the bottom to here, and that's where the tank's full and that's the top of the tank. So I will attach this hose, so this would be hitting the bottom of the tank like this, and I don't want the hose to be like this or else it wouldn't be able to siphon any fuel and it'll get stuck. So I'll tie the hose like about 1.5 inches up from the bottom of the tank to alleviate any risk of getting clogs or picking up stuff. And then we'll have the hose going up to here, and then that'll be down here, like basically picture this all down, and then this will connect to the actual fuel Raycor separators, which are under this panel. I mean, I'll be ghetto for a bit there. It'll have to go underneath here. We'll give it a shot. I mean, that's all we can do, right? And then once that's connected, I'll like kind of siphon it so that this fills with fuel and then put it on the Raycors, and then we'll flash the engine up. Well, first we'll bleed it because we'll have introduced a bit of air from going in this line, and then we'll give it a shot. So that's the plan for now anyways. And wish us luck. So we want it to be solid, like not move up and down, but we don't want to collapse the hose either. So that seems to be, I'll do one more. That's good. Okay, so basically it's gonna go down like this, and then it's gonna connect to the pickup here. Okay, yeah, that won't work. But we might not need the stick because it is kind of a tube in there. It's not going to be ideal without the stick, I'm not going to lie, but we can still test the Fury out. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're using a dinghy pump. I was able to wrestle the fuel hose on here, put a hose clamp, and now we can get quite a bit of pressure. So I'm going to remove the fuel hose right now that's connecting the diesel tank to the Raycor filter, and we'll put that in, and we'll pump and pump and pump and pump some more. Pump fast. Okay, should be, if there's a clog, hopefully that did it.
Okay, on. Okay, off.
Okay, started, give it gas.
Okay.
Right now we're just purging the air out of the line, so we'll give it like a 2 minutes before we actually like know. Okay, neutral. neutral up and down there. Okay, push it in gear. And then you'll go in reverse, 1200 RPM. Reverse, 1200. All right, well, that was kind of I guess a partial success in the sense that didn't see any crazy aggressive air coming through the forward filter. I think, like I said before, sometimes you have problems and it's a multitude of things when it comes to engines and stuff, and it's hard to pinpoint what the problem is because you see a few things that are kind of failing all at the same time. This filter casing definitely has an air leak because you can see more air coming in that one. This one had none whatsoever. Maybe one or two little tiny bubbles, but not a lot, not enough to cause any issues really. This one was getting quite a bit of bubbles. So that's where I say sometimes it can be two things factoring, and it makes it hard to diagnostics. But in this case, it makes sense because this filter here is the one we've used for 8 years nonstop, and that was always like a reserve one, which in retrospect, it would have been probably smart to alternate them. Because this is failing too, what I think was happening is because the seal, it's harder to form a seal on this one because it's more used, and the fuel pickup was also blocked partially, so when the engine was sucking harder, it creates a vacuum basically, like more suction, and then any little place that would have normally in normal conditions, if the fuel pickup line wasn't clogged, wouldn't have leaked, now will leak because there's more of a vacuum. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys at home, but that's probably why that aft filter was now sucking air, because the seal is not perfect anymore. It was running fine under optimal conditions, but when there was a partial block in the fuel pickup line, well, that created enough of a vacuum that then any little seal that was, you know, maybe not perfect, but in perfect condition was working just fine. Now with the augmented vacuum that's been created because of the fuel pickup line being a bit blocked, now created enough vacuum to pull a bit of air. So we were seeing a combination, I think, of air coming from the filter casing itself, as well as a vacuum getting created from the pickup. So we were never able to blow air to the amount that we've blown today. Normally all we did was, like, I was forming a seal with my hand around, we'd pump it, and I was like, wouldn't do much, to be honest. Half the air was leaking around my hands. But today we were able to like pump quite a bit with this dinghy pump. And I mean, this dinghy pump is meant to put up to fucking 16, 17 PSI, right? So it's a good pump. So with the hose forming a seal now, no air was going anywhere. Obviously, the pump has an air vent and all that stuff, so we're not pressurizing the tank. All we really wanted was to blow that line, the fuel pickup line out. Whatever may be, it might come back and clog again, so we don't know. But right now, I guarantee you that what we did helped, because just before sailing yesterday when we checked it, without even being in gear, we were just at 1,000 RPM and I could see a shit ton of bubbles. And then we were running like at low idle forward and we were seeing a shit ton of bubbles. And right now we went to 1,200 in reverse, but not in reverse with nothing stopping us. Like the engine was forcing because we're at anchor. So like the anchors pull and we're forcing against it. It creates a load, a decent load actually. And I couldn't see any bubbles on the forward filter. When I switched the aft one, I would see a bit of bubbles. Not as much as we did yesterday. So that's where it leads me to believe that it's the combination and the aft filter casings that kind of letting a bit of air in when there's a vacuum. So the fuel pickup line's probably still not perfect, but it's definitely a lot better.
After a bit of more engine troubleshooting, we decided it was time for a dose of ocean therapy. The water felt like a lukewarm bath, wrapping around us like a gentle hug the moment we jumped in. We wanted to share the magic of where we were anchored from below the surface, because it's truly something special. This is without a doubt the shallowest we've ever anchored Sitka. And while it might not seem extreme to those of you who've cruised the Bahamas or other parts of the Caribbean, for us, coming from the Pacific side, it feels surreal. We spent the evening playing around with our boat, giving Sitka a few well-deserved belly rubs, and unwinding after a long day of boat work. Finding that balance is everything out here. Without it, you would lose your mind.
Just came back from up on deck, and we now have 2 operating foot pedals again, thanks to Captain Jay.
Yeah.
Do you love working up there?
No, like this so fucking pain in the asshole. It's just so tiny. Like I say often with like boat work, like working, like the thing that needs to be fixed is very easy. Like in this case is literally like putting a new switch and connecting 2 wires together with like butt connectors. Like it doesn't really get easier than this job as far as boat work gets involved. But I gotta deal with this size hole.
Like try putting your head
like
in
I
there.
can't put my head, I can't see what I'm doing. Luckily I had thought about myself last time I did this and left myself a long tail of wire. It doesn't really matter because it's just all this pedal does is sends a signal to control box behind here. So not a lot of voltage goes through that tiny wire. It's just basically sending a message over and opening and closing a circuit. So in that sense, it doesn't matter if you add a bunch of long wire to make your life easier because you're not going to get a lot of voltage drop, and there's not a big deal. Voltage drop to the motor is a big deal, and that's why the cables are like this thick, and you want them as short as possible, as realistically as possible. But then I'm going to send Kenna back up because I played with them to go show you guys up on deck, show them the up and down, and then do the same thing. Just go up and then put the slack back up, okay?
I think the word of the week for this video has to be balance. So if you've made it this far into this week's episode, drop it in the comments below. Life is all about finding that balance, and that doesn't change just because we're out here on the water. If you ask, most cruisers aim to knock out at least 1 or 2 tasks or boat projects before letting themselves enjoy the fun. Otherwise, things pile up fast, and suddenly you're buried in work instead of soaking up the lifestyle. But at the same time, what's the point if you're not enjoying it all? We're out here living the life we've always dreamt of, but it still takes a good dose of discipline and dedication to keep it all going. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you all next week. Thank you for watching this week's episode of Sailing Sitka. Stick around for more to come. If you enjoyed, please spread the love and let us know. Special thank you to our Patreon members for making these videos possible, as well as helping our dreams come true. See you all next week.